Good morning. It is Monday, the 2nd of August. I'm out in the region Nook even before 9 o'clock on what is going to be a bright, sunny, but reasonably warm day with a nice hot cup of tea. And of course, some parcels to unbox. It is RPG Day 2. So I hope you've been participating in that. Go check that out. Hope you haven't missed that. And it's post UK Games Expo as well, which was a great weekend. And I picked up some interesting things to review, and I will get to those in due course. But let's get to the next parcel. Now, this is one I've already opened with some difficulty and pulled out. Let's have a couple of things in here. So I've already pulled out that. I've talked about that. And then I am also in here is this. Okay, this is the adventure pack for Dungeon Crawl Classics Day 2021. It's free, and that occurred on basically June 26th, and it's taken that long time, all that while to get to me for reasons which I'll explain in a minute. Okay, so essentially, here's the thing. There is, and it's an event every year called Free RPG Day, where publishers get together and they submit basically mini scenarios and quick starts and support for their role-playing games, especially new ones coming out or existing ones like Dungeon Crawl Classics. Goodman Games has supported Free RPG Day for several years, and they submit them to the organisers, and then retailers sign up and basically buy a box of samples to give out to their customers. Customers go in and get those, and then basically have some idea what their game is going to be like, and the forthcoming game or support for the game they like, and so on. And it's great, and you basically get free samples, and then typically me, I go and grab everything, and basically I do that because I want to review all of those titles, and I have done for every free RPG Day since. But the thing is, Dungeon Crawl Classics at Goodman Games have their own day, a day dedicated to Dungeon Crawl Classics. This year it was June 26th, and they do their own little books specifically for that day and for the retailers who participate in it. So you go along and you play, and you'll be able to pick up these free books, and part of the road crew, the judges, the game masters who run basically the Goodman Games role-playing games, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Mutant Crawl Classics, and so on, okay, will run these for you on the day if you go to those stores, as well as you being able to pick these up. One of the basically the judge in here, my friend Brendan LaSalle, he's a judge, well-known judge. He goes to lots of conventions and just runs Dungeon Crawl Classics and Mutant Crawl Classics, as well as being an author of them. I have this thanks to Scott Jost. You may recognise him as Orcus Dorcas on Twitter. He was at this event, and he picked up this and also this on the day for those of us who couldn't attend, not necessarily because we couldn't attend in his store, but primarily because essentially Dungeon Crawl Classics Day is an American event for the most part. There aren't many participating, or even any, I suspect, here in the UK because of geographical distances. So he was kind enough to pick these up and send them over. So I want to thank him for that. I do appreciate him taking the time to do that. Dungeon Crawl Classics Day 2021 Adventure Pack. Welcome to the Worlds of Dungeon Crawl Classics. This adventure pack commemorates our second annual DCC Day. DCC Day is a chance to say thanks to fans for their support, and by thanks, what we really mean is have a great game on us. Inside this free adventure pack you will find 3 complete and playable adventures for the Worlds of Dungeon Crawl Classics. We encourage you to run these adventures for your friends, have fun, and help spread the word about what makes Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG such fun. So, for Dungeon Crawl Classics RPG, Temple Siege is a level 1 adventure where all the action takes place in a single room. It's an atypical adventure full of surprises that will keep your players guessing. For Dungeon Crawl Classics Dying Earth, Fathoms Below Witch Isle is the first published adventure set in the world of Jack Francis' Dying Earth. This level 1 adventure starts with the party travelling as passengers aboard an unusual ship driven by huge sailing worms. They must survive sea demons, a shipwreck, and capture at the hands of the strange inhabitants of an underwater isle who seek to use them as sacrifices to a bizarre fiend who plagues their home. For Mutant Crawl Classics, and Mutant Crawl Classics is essentially Goodman Games' version of Gamma World, and it's a lot of fun. It's a kind of gonzo post-apocalyptic setting and rules. For Mutant Crawl Classics, the Neverwhen Ruck is a new level 0 funnel adventure. It's time for the primitive party members to undergo their rite of passage, which involves exploring unknown parts of their world and returning stronger and wiser, all with artifacts in hand. This adventure can also connect back to the MCC adventure in last year's DCC Day Adventure Starter. Plan your night adventures. Thank you for supporting DCC RPG and DCC Day. That's unfortunate. But one of the things is because I don't have last year's DCC Adventure Starter. Tracking that down on eBay is difficult because they're quite rare, because they're collectible. The DCC community basically hoovered them all up, because essentially they're fans, and that's fine. Basically, I wasn't aware of the event before it was. Basically, I heard about it, and basically, I wanted one of these books, but that's fine. So what you've got in here is 3 adventures. Great artwork, as you can see. Basically, different artwork for the different adventures that captures all 3 of them. So basically, top to bottom, and that's a nice touch. And then we've got an introduction, which explains what the book is, and then we go into the adventures themselves. So Temple Siege, a level 1 adventure. We've got basically fleeing the temple. Players start outside the temple, and then inside you have there's the temple, single room, and events, and that gives us sort of like a nice sense of atmosphere and containment. Essentially, we're stuck in this room. What's happening? Oh, something else has happened. We've got to get away or find out what the secrets are. And this adventure is what essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pages long. You know, and it all takes place in one room, and they'll be attacked from outside, and things will happen inside. Attacked from outside, and things happen inside, and so on. So it's a great sort of like one night adventure, basically for your group. And obviously you could take it, adapt it to the retro clone of your choice if you wanted to. But Dungeon Crawl Classics is a good sort of retro clone, sort of like derived from Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition, 3.5, that sort of thing, as an alternative to sort of like 4th edition. But it's very much its own thing. Of course, here we've got an image of the band, essentially the group of sample sort of characters which Goodman Games uses across all of its branding for Dungeon Crawl Classics, and that the band changes as they've got internal history and what's going on. And we come into DCC Dying Earth, Fathoms Below Which Isle, and this is going to push the gonzo feel of Dungeon Crawl Classics even further, because Dying Earth is set in the very far future, and basically a wholly different age, and will have its own weirdness that the player characters will encounter, such as essentially, basically what you've got there is a walking lamprey. You don't want to encounter one of those at any time, let alone anything at night. And again, decent map, and it's all captured on one page, and there's everything in there you want to play. This is the first adventure of a DCC Dying Earth. Dying Earth has been covered before by Pelgrane Press with its own Dying Earth RPG, but Goodman Games have the license now, and they're going to do essentially a version which is sort of played like D&D but different. And then lastly, we have got the Neverwhen Rock, which is from Mutant Crawl Classics, and it's a character funnel, a level 0 adventure. By character funnel, if you've not played one of those, you really should try them out. You instead of playing a character with first level who's got a class and abilities, you play essentially a person, equivalent, not a peasant, but essentially the equivalent of a peasant in D&D. You might be a noble, a shipwright, or a farmer, a herder, a tailor, and that sort of thing. And what you have is you have basically your race and your occupation and your equipment, and that's it. And you have to survive the adventure. And if you survive the adventure, you gain 10 XP, and you can go and be a particular class after that. In Dungeon Crawl Classics, the classes essentially, are warrior, wizard, cleric, thief, and then elf, dwarf, and halfling. And you've got different classes in Mutant Classics. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but essentially, you've got the kind of same breakdown. But instead of one of them is Manimal, which is where you are a mutated animal, and then you've got Plantoid, where you're a mutant plant, and there are their own classes. And you've got essentially the equivalent of clerics and warriors and thieves and so on in Mutant Core Classics. But the thing is, in Mutant Core Classics, you typically start off as teenagers or not quite adults who have not gone through their rite of passage, where essentially village elders go, right, go out into the wide world, explore or deal with an issue, come back, prove yourselves worthy of the tribe as adults, find some artifacts, and see what happens. And you start off with 4 of these as a player, and you basically, they're simple. You just roll them up. You've got the occupation, some equipment, and you supply the personality of what they look like, and so on. And you go from there. And they have nothing to survive on, essentially, bar their equipment and their wits and lucky dice rolls, and you role playing them. And as you role play, you build connections between your 4 characters, and between the 4 characters of the other players, and that builds the story and relationships and so on. And hopefully, one of your characters will survive and and therefore gain enough experience points to go to first level. If otherwise, basically, you might have a complete wipeout of your 4 characters, and then you adopt one of the other players because essentially that's the easiest thing to do. And again, he might survive, he might not, and total party kills, TPKs are possible. But here we go. Here's the frontispiece for the adventure. And it's a bit weird, and you don't know what's going on there, but it's no surprise. Very simple location. It's basically what amounts to 5 locations for the dragon's lair. And here's the thing: you're calling it dragon, and that's clearly a rocket or something like that. It's interesting that you're talking about an encounter with the past that you know nothing about. It's basically a little bit beyond your understanding because it's a post-apocalyptic setting. So that is the DCC Day 2021 adventure pack. 3 adventures. You can play each of these in a single session. You can add them to your campaign. The character funnel, you can play probably as first level characters. Basically one each has normal as sort of like a side encounter, and that will be fine. As the introduction to the Dying Earth game, this is probably going to be interesting to read. You may, of course, the other option would be, because you could just hold off until basically, okay, I want to create some Dying Earth style characters for Dungeon Crawl Classics, and then play that. But yeah, that's going to be an interesting preview for the Kickstarter, which has completed. So I want to thank first Scott for sending this to me. Really appreciate him taking the time to do that. I hope you had fun on the day playing these, appreciate him collecting these and sending these out, not just to me, to a couple of other friends as well. So if you've enjoyed this unboxing, then please click the like button down below. and we've got any comments or feedback. I appreciate you taking the time to write those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings in the Nook, where you will see me with a parcel and a book, and of course a nice hot cup of tea, chatting away for about 10 minutes as knowledgeably as I can with these books, and then hit the subscribe button. In the meantime, thanks again for watching. I'll be back again with another unboxing very soon. Bye for now.